It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. Oh, off to a great start. Okay, so we're talking unintentional goalpost moving today. And this is another thing I've seen in conversations a lot, and I've determined I don't think it's deliberate. Which is why some of these things are like technical glitches, or what a friend of mine calls tactical errors, that are often judged. It's, I forget the name of this fallacy, but you attribute to malice in other people that you consider circumstantial in yourself. Fundamental attribution error. That's what it is, right? Most people are not precise in their speech. And I personally believe in being precise in my speech and not lazy in my speech. Because I think not only does it make conversations go better, but it helps you recognize patterns in your thinking that you may otherwise miss, and they're patterns that may not be helping you, right? Leaps in logic, catastrophizing, magical thinking, so on and so forth. And there was a story last week. I don't care what anybody else's opinions are on it. I don't want this to be a tangent or a derail. Did you hear me? I don't want this to be a tangent or a derail. Please respect that. Don't move the goalposts. There was a play announced at Shakespeare's Globe, where it's a retelling of the story of Joan of Arc, where Joan of Arc uses they, them pronouns. And it became this big shitstorm. And they actually had sociologists saying it went too far. And I'm sitting here saying both Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde are somewhere hanging out in the afterlife going, you bunch of schmucks. Wouldn't it be funny if Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde used the word schmuck? Anyway, but I put up a thing about some people are raging at this. And, this is a theater tradition where the women were all played by men. Like, it's so funny that people would Lady Macbeth's, one of Lady Macbeth's big lines is, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here." Right? Shakespeare clearly believed in a third gender. No, just kidding. But that's a laugh line, right? You'll notice how many characters in Shakespeare, female characters, referred to, "I am a woman," is jokes, right? Because it was all played by men. I got some really weird responses. The ones where people were just spun out, those I expected. But there were some very real unintentional goalpost moves. In one case, I think it was actually intentional, and somebody was just a bad faith actor because they're one of those people, culture war types online. But other people, and this is the thing, just because somebody does something that looks like something a bad actor does, doesn't mean their intentions are necessarily bad. And that's why I'm making this video. In response to me saying some people are raging about this, they responded, "I don't see rage, I see criticism." And I responded, well, yeah, okay. I'm talking about the people who are raging, right? The people who were talking about erasing women. There were TERF articles. Okay, it was Julie Bindel, but she said that it was like, oh, what a wonderful experience it is to Joan of Arc shows how we can rise above patriarchy. It gives girls hope and all that stuff. It's like, she got burned at the stake at 19, woman. How is this? Like, that's what I meant by, like, raging. Like, that's nuts. But no, this particular person hadn't seen it. He wanted to talk about something I wasn't talking about. And so it was like, I'm talking about people who are raging. And it was, well, I'm talking about the people who are criticizing. And I'm like, but I'm not. Why do you have a problem with criticism? And that's where it became a completely unproductive. I never said criticism. You brought that into it. But why do you have a problem with it? People have to be allowed to criticize. Goalpost move, right? That is changing the rules mid-game to create an artificial advantage or disadvantage for one side or the other, right? It is a classic goalpost move. But people don't see it. And I don't know why. I'm just calling attention to it so people do see it, because it doesn't get anybody good results, and it shows that people are skipping steps in their own thinking, right? They're not really recognizing that they're seeing something that's not there, or they're interpreting. And that's what I think, that's my theory about where it comes from, is a lot of people, this is why I say, and it's not therapy, listen twice before you talk once, or before you tweet once. Because I say rage, they hear criticism, they start engaging as if I said criticism, and I didn't. And it's frustrating for everybody involved, right? This is why it's really important to make sure you've heard or you've read properly before you engage with something, because people have the right to have opinions about stuff, even when those opinions are critical, right? I don't know why somebody feels the need to tag a person in when they're dumping on something they've done. It's one thing to have an opinion about something. It's another thing to tell somebody to their online face, I think you suck. I don't understand that, right? I'm not tagging Neil Gaiman in my WTF about Sandman, right? He clearly did the best he possibly could. I think it's a hot mess whenever Jenna Coleman's not on the screen. You know, it happens sometimes. But see, I don't have a problem with criticism. And it is impossible to defend rage. But criticism, people have this sensitivity about criticism, and they want to defend criticism. And so instead of just being able to agree with what I'm saying, that this isn't worth rage, they're sensitive because they clearly don't like it. Like, I had people saying, I'm not angry, I just think it's bad art. And it's like, but you haven't even seen it yet. How do you know it's bad art? It's a stupid idea. Oh, but you're not angry. Okay. Just criticizing. Right. Okay. A lot of things on paper sound like really stupid ideas. A bad guy, a short angry guy who has metal claws pop out of his knuckles. Well, that's a stupid idea. No, man, Wolverine's awesome. Right? You have to see the execution. And because they want to talk about something I'm not talking about, it says so much about their internal insecurities. And that's why I want to talk about this, because I do think that a lot of these things that are bad habits and bad for conversations are not, as some people claim, deliberate. They are bad habits. They are unintentional, right? And this one, where people change a subject and don't realize they've changed the subject. And it's a very specific type of subject change. That's why I'm saying it's moving the goalpost, because it's hijacking the conversation into a place where they feel safer instead of dealing with what the person actually said. And for whatever reason, some people are really uncomfortable with anything involving non-binary people. We're not talking about that today. But that makes this one of these subjects that results in intentional and unintentional goalpost moving. And part of it is just that people are persuaded by some of these culture warriors, you know, these thought leaders. And that's part of the reason I can't stand TERFs, is it's such an emotional argument, right? You know, it's you know, I keep thinking this is an opportunity for this young woman, because that's what that person in Ohio said about the 10-year-old who needed an abortion, and they didn't want to give it to her. But it was something like that. Like it was experience or I forget what it was. I should have looked it up. But I was just like, Joan of Arc is not a triumph over patriarchy, Julie Bindel. Joan of Arc was a cautionary tale about heretical, like the idea that something is heresy. You know, she didn't win. You know, first of all, the whole story is legend. It happened between 1429 and 1431, right? We don't know how much of it is true. And she there were generals that were given to her by her patrons. She wasn't, single-handedly leading armies into battle. I mean, it's myth, right? It's a good story. But Joan of Arc is not a story of a woman triumphing over patriarchy. Joan of Arc is a story of what they did to people who were different, right? Because she wasn't burned at the stake, technically, for, trying to overthrow the government. She was burned at the stake for doing things like wearing men's clothes. When you realize that, the whole they them thing is not much of a stretch, but then you get into, no, that doesn't, that is emotional, right? And I'm sure if you ask Julie Bindel, she would claim it was in good faith, this is important to her, and I'm sure that's true. But it was a completely terrible argument that was not based in logic. And that's the thing you can avoid by training yourself to not skip steps. And I mean, what Julie Bindel engaged in there was an example of catastrophic thinking. They get the turf types get so panicked whenever this idea they're coming for women. There may be a tiny contingent of people who hate women, and the idea that the entire concept of womanhood would just be scoured from the earth is absurd. But I'm not afraid personally of the concept that maybe our traditional concept of gender, or even the values assigned to sex, have had its day. And science allows us to not worry so much. Hey, but once they get artificial wombs working, anybody can gestate a kid. The world's changing because of technology. It just is. Now, I'm not advocating that position. I'm just saying I'm not afraid of the idea. And do you see how I didn't jump? It wasn't, well, she's saying this, so I'm going to have an equal and opposite reaction. No. That's what those pieces are designed to do. That's what comments are designed to do. They're designed to hijack the intellect by scaring you. They're coming for your children. They're coming for your womanhood. They're coming for your bathrooms. They're coming for your, and whatever you think about, the pronoun fight, there's a big difference between language and personal safety. And this is the reasonable conversation we can have if people don't move the goalposts. Everybody can be validated here. And I do believe it's really important that people get the time to get comfortable with this stuff. And we can't do that if everybody's, flooring the gas pedal emotionally and running based on fear of cancellation, fear of being left behind, fear of being falsely accused. I mean, there's so much mind reading going on. Another big goalpost move I've seen a lot And I think sometimes this is intentional bad faith. Somebody's just trying to not admit they made a mistake. But other times I think that they actually do. It's another one that they hear one thing. It wasn't what was actually said, or it wasn't what was actually written. And because they heard the other thing, it's right in front of their face, and they're just so reactive. They're so triggered that they can't see what's right in front of their face. And so they go, you said this thing I didn't say. Like saying this, you said criticism. Well, no, I didn't. Look back at the tree. Well, you said rage, but you meant criticism. You know, like, obviously that is not what that person said. It's been said about other things. But, you know, we've all experienced this, right? And it's like, no, I didn't. That's a goalpost move, right? It's bad logic. It's not good. And it's just people are so, right, that they can't admit they got it wrong. Obviously, this is not good for anyone, right? And this is why I'm talking about this on Wellness Wednesday. One of the big things in maintaining emotional equilibrium, in being happier, right? In minimizing the catastrophic thinking, in, you know, telling yourself better stories, more productive, useful, inspiring stories about your own life, is really listening and taking things one step at a time and not making those leaps. It may sound like such a small thing and you can't see how it can make a difference. I know it has made a huge difference to me when I feel that, you know, emotional response building. I have trained myself to stop and go, make sure that's what it's really saying here. Make sure this isn't something that just sounds like something else. What are they actually saying? What is subjective? What is objective about this statement, right? Because in plain speech, when someone's talking about rage and you start chastising them about not being able to handle criticism, you sound like an asshole. Because, you know, any thinking person recognizes criticism and rage are not the same thing. But for whatever reason, in someone's mind, I guess they've been subject to gaslighting, where they just, you know, had a complaint and got the why are you so angry, right? And yes, people shut things down with anger. You know, people shut things down based on anger, even when it's appropriate anger, a lot, and it's not good. But that's not what I was doing, right? I was talking about the hot takes that were clearly so spun out that we should encourage our girls to aspire to be burned at the stake at 19, right? While dying a virgin. Like, I mean, the whole emphasis on virginity, the whole, you know, part of the reason Joan of Arc dressed as a man is to preserve her virginity. That's one theory. Like, that's so counter to modern feminist thought. I don't know why they're dying on this hill, but that's what I meant. That, and I don't like dismissing ideas as stupid, because I could have said, you know, people being stupid about, but that would have got me the same response, right? Because there's a lot on Twitter of, if this statement doesn't apply to you, why are you responding? Oh, right, because you think it does. Okay. And this is the problem with goalpost moves, right? To me, people who do it deliberately think they're doing it because it controls the conversation. But what it really does to somebody who's a keen listener is gives the person you're doing it to a front row seat to catalog your insecurities and weaknesses. And I think that's really important to understand. You know, when somebody's jumping around a conversation like that, I don't see superior. I see afraid. I see, not willing to stand and defend a single position. And that really is, this does not mean somebody's a bad person, and it doesn't mean they're doing it intentionally. This is about unintentional goalpost moving, right? This is just an emotional response. And emotional responses aren't bad inherently. But it's better to sort of understand why you're having an emotional response before you open your mouth. And none of us do that all the time. Emotions happen faster than thoughts. But the thing about Twitter is it's not like when you're right in front of someone and bah, right? You can go bah behind your keyboard and not type, right? Sit on your hands, walk away from your computer, have that emotional reaction. I don't understand why people tweet like, I don't, because it's different paradigms, right? It's the story. They're coming for me. I have to defend myself. I have to fight back. That's the reactive narrative, right? The secure narrative, the narrative that's going to move you towards emotional regulation, is they don't control me. I control me. These are just words on a screen. These people can't get to me. They can't do anything to me but be obnoxious. I don't have to stoop to their level. I don't have to respond. I don't have to react. Been doing a lot of that, dealing with these lingering COVID things, because I wouldn't even say I'm at 100%. Like, never mind, not at 100%. I'm at 60% on a good day. I'm doing pretty well considering, but I am not going to wade into, I am not going to be the aggressor in an emotionally charged debate directly with another person in my current state. I am not going to initiate that because I have self-control. And self-control, emotional regulation, a lack of catastrophic thinking, and feeling happier and more stable and secure, they're all a continuum. One leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. It supports everything else. And catching your unintentional goalpost moving is a great way to start on that journey. And that's why this is in Wellness Wednesday. So if you like this content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching and be well.